Jim, can I ask you to go first? Just, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 minutes on who you are, your journey, and why we've asked you to be here with us today.
Well, why you've asked me to be here is because you've been stalking me for about 5 years.
Yeah.
Appreciate that. No, I've always been a supporter. My name's Jim Shields, and I founded Twist and Shout Communications in Leicester 27 years ago, which was a film production company and an events company at the time. More recently, we switched over to pure video after 2000. That was as a result of events going away after 9/11. And the next business we started a few years later was, well, probably about, I'd say about 6 or 7 years later, was a publishing company, because we found we were making a lot of the same videos for the same companies, and we decided to invest in making the best one in the world for that purpose in cybersecurity. And so we made some awareness comedies, which I have a small mouse mat I can show you. Who doesn't love merch? Anyway, that's the sitcom that I've spent a long time making. Restricted Intelligence, yes, it is a joke. And the upshot of that was that we grew the company. Turnover was probably about 1.5 million by the time we were approached to be bought. I played hard to get for 18 months, and then they made me an offer I couldn't refuse, and we are now a wholly owned subsidiary of a company called KnowBe4 Inc., who are based in Florida. They are a platform for training and awareness for cybersecurity, and they wanted to buy our back catalogue, but I persuaded them that they also needed a production company. So instead of buying the golden eggs, they could buy the goose, you know. And so that was the most recent significant thing. So it's been a year since acquisition, and they have funded a much bigger, much higher level of production than we've ever really known, which is wonderful. And they've also committed to 7 seasons of a series we make called The Inside Man, which is massively popular and has more viewers around the world than a lot of channels that you would get on Freeview. So that's my story, and I've supported Leicester Startups for ages. I think obviously it's a great community. I believe if you're prepared to lean in and connect, that, you know, they will always help you, and they'll always have somebody to talk to. And so yeah, always been a fan, and that's it really.
Thank you very much. Yeah. I'm sure we'll coax more out of you as we go through this session, Jim.
Yeah,
and Hamza, yeah, if you could do the same, just 3, 4 minutes on who you are, what you've achieved, and why you're here today, I guess.
Great, yeah, thank you. So my name is Hamzah Malik, and I went to the Uni of Leicester 2010 till 2013. And in 2013, they had the Enterprise Student of the Year Awards, and from the support I received from Leicester Uni, I was lucky enough to win that due to a CV creation business that I started during uni, because it was like 2010 when I started, kind of the height of the recession, and I was doing an English degree, so I was good at sort of writing and everything. So I started a business called Create My CV. I didn't have a clue what I was doing at all, and it grew very quickly because the demand was there, and I ended up nearly failing the degree because of the startup on the side. Leicester Startups and the enterprise side of Leicester Uni were kind enough to support me in actually shaping the business and also making sure that I stayed in uni, and that kind of funded my entire uni life for 3 years, which was great. And then after that, I went onto the John Lewis graduate scheme because I was doing a Saturday job at John Lewis at the time, and they said, hey, you should go on the graduate scheme. So I said, okay, it sounds like a plan, and worked in corporate for a few years, and then sidestepped into publishing for a while for a local publisher, and took them from a virtually standstill start and made their digital strategy to make them a market leader in the UK. And then I thought, well, we could really do this for a lot more people because it's very formulaic sometimes. So then I started what I'm doing currently, Regent Branding, which is a digital consultancy, fully remote and fully flexible, with 32 people around the world, all called Regents, across marketing, development, and design. And we go across sort of search marketing, social marketing, mobile apps. Some of our apps have topped the App Store in several countries, which was great. And half the business is client facing, and half the business is a playground for us. So if we have a cool idea, the rule is any Regent can come up with an idea, we will build it for them. They can get a profit share in it, of course, but it has to pass a lot of rigorous tests. We get a lot of wacky and goofy ideas from our team, and then 1 out of 10 of them are great. So there's an app called Drench that we built internally that was recently we licensed it out to Egypt because their coronavirus situation is quite different, and they've started to open up a little bit, sort of cautiously, and they said they want something like Drench to drive footfall. It's essentially an app on your phone, and when you're walking by a certain specific location, it drenches you with an offer, but it dries up within a few minutes. So it just boosts footfall instantly, in a really fun and like impulsive way. Some people say that it kind of drives impulsive behavior and everything, and yeah, I totally agree. To be honest, it's not this sort of long tail app or anything like that, but it's done well. Here we had 10,000 users in Peterborough. Coronavirus hit, so obviously we had to turn all the drenches off very quickly, and we just had one drench covering the whole of Peterborough saying stay inside because we don't want you to go and spread the virus. So that's launching in the next few weeks, which is quite exciting. And then on the side as well, Regent Branding, we've been lucky enough to work with clients such as like Taco Bell, and we even worked with the Uni of Leicester actually for some marketing last year, I believe. So yeah, it's been quite a journey. Digital marketing is kind of like my niche, and I'd say my specialty, and why I'm here today is because I have launched several startups from total obscurity to getting in front of one of the most influential people in that niche industry. So for example, with Drench, it went from an idea that I had lying in bed, and then we were in front of the head of marketing for Just Eat like 18 months later. And I'd love to share how we managed to do that. It's not a secret. It's just a lot of hard work and some weird tactics as well. So that's why I'm here. Thank you everyone for attending as well, and I hope to be of value during this conversation.
Fantastic. Thank you, Hamza. Thank you, Jim. So just as a reminder, anyone that's turned up, we're not using Zoom questions. There's a link in the chat to Noonie, and that will take you through to an audience participation or engagement platform, and that's where we put the questions. So this is a roundtable format. I'm not going to be interviewing Jim and Hamza. I'll kick it off with a few questions, but we would really, I mean, the benefit of running a roundtable is it's about audience participation. So this is your opportunity to talk to two people and ask whatever questions you want of them, because as you've just heard, they've clearly been there and done that. So thinking about the title of this session, I mean, it's the tools and tricks they've used to reach more users and customers. So far, there's only one question in the chat, so we'll start with that one. Would love to know more about key market. Would love to know what key marketing tasks you undertook in the early days of your product's launch.
Do you want to go first, Hamza?
Yeah, sure. So
I've got an answer, but I don't want to stick.
Yeah.
Like, I think you're going to provide like the really strategic, fully fleshed answer, and I'm going to provide the answer that's just like
no pressure then.
Oh, winged it. Yeah, that's fine. Right. So key marketing tasks. So when I first started, I didn't have a clue about marketing, and I didn't know anything about customer personas and segments and channels of distribution, anything like that. So what I did was I thought marketing is essentially making someone feel something at the right time in the right way and asking them for a transaction of value. That doesn't mean you're asking them to buy something. It could be as simple as making them smile. That's still good marketing, because you're doing something that, making someone feel happy. And then much, much later on, you can ask someone to buy. It's the reason big brands and very successful brands in their ads, you don't see, for example, Apple saying, hey, buy the new iPhone. They never say that. They just explain what the product is and leave it there for you to look at. So when I did this, I was in a different spot because I wasn't Apple and no one knew me. So I was doing stuff like, and this is going to sound really weird, but I knew that exposure and reach were crucial to growing, for example, my CV business. So I made a list of where my customers would be hanging out. And one of them was very naively, at a supermarket, because everyone goes to a supermarket. And I used to go in first year of uni in 2010 to like the Tesco's down near the train station on London Road, and just walk around like with a basket and just yell out the name of my business. And that worked. Like, it got me customers through the door, and people were like, they probably thought I was crazy, to be honest. However, for me, that was reaching the right people in a way that was, for me, like free, because I didn't have any money to spend on this. And then, if you, as you yell out, create my CV, you can get really good CVs. And obviously 9 out of 10 people that were in the next aisle or next to me were like, this guy's probably on drugs. But 1 out of 10 people were like, oh, okay, well, you know, I know someone who knows someone who just lost their job, so they can maybe check out that company. Weird way to do it. And then as I moved forward and kind of developed my marketing skill set, now when we launch a product, we have a full pipeline. So now we say, who's the market demographic? We make 6 or 7 customer personas. We know exactly where they're hanging out. We either do a user survey or we do some research on that. And that's not always social media. Sometimes it could be that we, you know, buy some sponsorship in a newspaper or a magazine. We could do a billboard if we need to as well. But you need to know who your customers are, where they're hanging out, and exactly how you're adding value to them. So not why your product's great. No one cares why your product's great. They care what you can do for them. So how are you making life easier in a sentence, in a nutshell, and then just push that home. And the right channel is crucial. We've had like pharmaceutical companies come to us and say, we should be on TikTok. And it's like, nah, you really shouldn't. It's a bad idea. So we're like, no, you should really be on LinkedIn because look at the groups and the community. So it's about finding that right fit. And that's best for early days as well, because you can gain that traction. Jim, yeah.
Well, I completely agree with everything that Hamza said, especially the targeting. Find out who your customer is. The number of people I talk to who go, oh, well, it's everybody really. And that's just rubbish because, you know, unless you're selling bread and milk, then, you know, your customer isn't that. We were doing business to business sales with a specific role in mind. So we had to find out who in the company was responsible for cybersecurity and the education of employees. And so once we worked that out, the best thing we did was, as a film production company, we used to be members of professional associations like the IVCA, the Independent Video Commissioners Association, and people like that, which was those industry bodies that are for us. And we were with them for years. And that was a big mistake because all the events we went to were just full of competitors and there were no customers there. And so the big change for us was when we decided to join organizations that supported security people, because the room's full of customers and we were the only production company in the room and the only publisher of the world's first comedy about cybersecurity. That was like shooting fish in a barrel after that point. And that's where our growth started. The moment we stopped looking inward and you know, joining organizations that were like us, we started to join organizations that supported our customers. And we learned a ton about the market and who they were. You know, there's a big organization, a big event called InfoSec in London, and that's every year. And we went there, and then we just went as punters and went around and talked to people, gave cards out. At one point, nearly got thrown out because you're not really supposed to do that at an event you haven't paid for. But you know, but then the year after we took a stand, and the rest is history, really. So know who your audience are, and like Hamza says, where do they congregate? Where do they coalesce? And that might not always be what you think. Another little tip I'll give you is trying to find out information inside companies is very hard until you go to the situations vacant pages. So look at the jobs that they're advertising, because most companies give out a lot more information in trying to pitch to somebody to get a job than they do if you try and call them or connect on LinkedIn or whatever. They're very aware that you're trying to sell to them, but there's one area where they're trying to sell to you, and that's on a job ad. So look for the role that you're looking for, see if they're recruiting. There's a ton of information. So that's my best advice to get intel on the market that you're going for.
Great, thank you for both.
I think the next question's for Hamza, definitely.
Can everyone see that question? Yeah, great.
Yeah. Okay. Then, oh yeah, I've been there. I've definitely been there on the days. Okay, right. This is exactly how it works, right? £100 will get swallowed up if you use it on Google Ads. It's really easy. So unless you're in a very low competition and high customer intent market, try and stay away from Google Ads unless you know exactly what you're doing with it. If you've done a course and you've done the Google Ads, you've got the certificate, great, because you can lower your cost per click by yourself. But like, I wouldn't go to an agency. So I wouldn't go to someone like Regent Branding because like there's like service fees and stuff. And at the moment, that's not the right fit. What I would do is I'm going to take a guess here and say that you may have customers that are on Facebook or Instagram. If I'm wrong, then you'll have to replace those words with the right social media networks. £100 can actually get you pretty far on Facebook specifically, and you can also run ads on Instagram. The way you do it is, so this is like, we call it like a remarketing strategy. And specifically what we do is we make a very short video. It can be, 20 or 30 seconds, explaining what your startup's about and why it gives value, right? You go to Facebook, set a campaign for video views, which are ridiculously cheap. You can get a good solid view for like 0.0001 pence. Let that run at £20 for a week, and then you'll have probably about 10 or 20,000 video views on that minimum. And then you take that video and you make another ad and say, right, people who watched like the whole video and commented on it, I want them to see this ad. The second ad is basically an offer about whatever your startup can do. And it needs to be a really tantalizing offer, something that's timed. The two things that work in digital advertising: social proof and scarcity. So if you've got a bit of social proof and you've got those customers, get reviews from them. If it's scarce, as in this offer expires tomorrow, and that's the only reason Drench works, is because it's scarce, then put scarcity in there, put a little timer in your ad as well. You don't even have to make the ads, in a really, really highly produced way. You can use tools like even Canva, Crello, Lumen 5. All these tools can be used to make videos really quickly and for free. And then from there, on that second ad, you need to be sending them to your landing page or your website. And on your website, make sure you've got the Facebook pixel installed, because if they don't do anything on that website, at least you have the opportunity to add them to your audience on Facebook. They did make a change recently to say that you're not allowed to track sort of across different platforms. That mostly affects apps. You're actually okay. So for £100, if you even split it like £25 a week, or even if you go really hard and go £50 a week and rinse it in 14 days, you can get customers based on that. And if you don't want to do that, then I would find a micro influencer and look into their engagement. Don't just go for them because they have big numbers. Usually big number influencers are like, they've inflated it. It's just fluff. Doesn't mean anything. Like if someone said to me that, so we've actually got a client who does cookie dough, and it's frozen cookie dough. It comes to you in the post. And they said, okay, like what if we've got someone like, Kim Kardashian to like buy our cookie dough? And I was like, firstly, I don't know if she's going to buy a cookie dough. Secondly, even if she did, I would totally not recommend using her platform, because apart from the brand affinity, which he doesn't need because it doesn't mean anything, like 9.9 out of 10 people following her are following her because they like her TV show or her makeup line or something. They're not interested in cookie dough. So I said, find someone who reviews desserts, someone with 10K followers who will charge £30 for a shout out on their story. You will get just heaps of traffic to your page instantly. And then if that story, it runs for 24 hours and more people will see it. And then if you get another shout out that sticks as an organic video on their feed, you've won. And that is literally how we've launched products for ourselves and for clients before as well. Back in the day when clients would say, we've got £50 to spend, instead of saying, no, we can't do anything, I'd be like, okay, great, £50, what can we do with it? You become really scrappy. Those two things I totally recommend. Test the waters. And once you see positive momentum, then just capitalize upon it.
Thank you, Hamza.
Brilliant.
Anything you could think of there, Jim, relevant?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much the opposite. It's really lo-fi compared to Hamza's answer. First of all, I'm dead impressed with that answer. But anyway, we'll talk more about that later. But we did an exercise because we were looking for people who were going to spend many thousands of pounds in one hit. We were looking for the whales. The way we felt was that I think there were probably 6 of us in the company at the time. And I decided to have a day where we did nothing else apart from brainstorm and execute a marketing campaign. And the way we did it was we spent the first half of the day identifying who do we want to work for. And it can be ridiculous. And we went, Richard Branson. Okay, right. I want to work for Richard Branson. Great. So where does he live? Where's his office? Who do we get to? Do we want to work for all of it or some of it? So we identified that we were well placed to work for Virgin Mobile because we'd had some telecommunications experience. So we decided we'd find the relevant person in Virgin Mobile. We got 5 examples of that, and then I assigned an individual to go to a charity shop and buy a random item for a tenner. It didn't matter what it was. And somebody brought back a jigsaw with probably pieces missing. Somebody brought back a broken Teasmade. For those of you that don't know what a Teasmade is, Google it. It's what old people used to use back in the day. Your alarm went off and a kettle got boiled. It's an absolute, how many houses must have burnt down with product? I don't know. And so anyway, we had these 5 random items, and then I challenged everybody to write a creative letter individually to the person that they'd nominated, weaving in the item, making it a metaphor for something. So the Teasmade was about convenience and timing and appreciating the little things like a really good cup of tea. The jigsaw was, is there a gap in your marketing strategy that we can help with video? And the person who got the jigsaw made the jigsaw and then stole a piece out of it and stuck it to the letter and ended it with, we might be just the piece you're looking for. And so you can see how that worked creatively. We sent 5 of these out, and some of them were quite big and heavy. We had to ship them. So if you're a marketing director in a firm and you get a Teasmade that's from the 1950s on your desk, you're going to notice that that is not a mass communication of any kind. And so that arrived. And out of the 5 things we sent out, we got 3 projects out of it. And that is the hit rate is unheard of in direct marketing terms, but it's because we also hand wrote the letters, and we we made them creative and fun, and we shipped them. And even on the outside of the package, there were twist and shout stickers all over it, and it was just a fun thing. It was unignorable, and that was my lo-fi thing. So if you're talking to businesses and you think, how the hell do I get through to the guy in the ivory tower? Well, one way is to make him laugh or make her laugh, and smile about, if nothing else, they'll, because you follow that up with an email saying, have you made any tea yet? Or did you finish the jigsaw? And they'll know exactly what you mean. Then you've opened a channel and you can now have a conversation. And that works 3 out of 5 gigs. Not immediately. 1 came in immediately. 2 came in about a month later. So that worked. I hope that's helpful. It's a bit random, but it's if you're trying to get through to people who are uncontactable and you think you're a creative, that is the one for you. So do something creative and be respectful as well. Obviously nothing stupid or embarrassing, but if you're going to start sending condoms out or something, it's probably not appropriate. But
love it. I haven't heard that before. I mean, I've heard of people attaching tea bags to CVs years and years ago. That's about the closest thing I can. But that, actually, I don't want to hijack this because we've got lots of questions coming in. But thanks for sharing that. Right, what have we got up next? Do you believe social media is taking off the product value these days? Almost now, everyone is into social media marketing, and it's hard to compete over such competition. I think maybe perhaps you can see the question up there as well. I don't know if I need to read it.
I'd answered the guerrilla techniques one. Sorry. All right.
Oh, well, that's fine. It's all useful. It's all relevant stuff. So can you see this blue quest? Yeah,
we can see 3 of them.
Perfect. Right. So either of you on the top one, if you could.
Okay. Jim, do you want to, or shall I?
I think this is your department, mate. Seriously.
All right.
Yeah. Sorry, man.
Right. So with social media, you're completely right. The person who sent in this question, people are on social media doing product ads for drop shipping and everything, and they've forgotten all about the product completely. And I've seen so many ads where I'm like, this person has never touched the product before. They're like, oh, if we get like 1,000 people seeing this ad and 10% of them buy the product, and I'll ship it using AliExpress and this and that, and it's on Shopify. I'm not against it. I'm not saying that don't do drop shipping. I'm just saying, like, as a marketer, I'm quite protective over creative, and this is people's time we're talking about. It's the one thing people can't make more of. Like, you can make more money, you can make more friends if you need. It's so finite. And then there's these ads that are just like, oh, forget the product value, but hey, look, you can get this super, super cheap thing. Just buy something because it helps their conversion rate, right? And everyone's into sort of do it really quickly. I don't agree with that. I think if you do want to compete over the competition, then you need to do something a little bit different, a bit like Jim did, to be honest. Like, cybersecurity, I've sat through when I worked in Curry's, PC World, John Lewis, Curry's Digital, Tesco's. I worked through all of them in my teenage years. Every single one of them has a cybersecurity video. It started off being a VHS tape, and then by the time I was about 18, they upgraded to a DVD. Oh my Lord, it was boring.
Was it a cartoon? Was it a little cartoon?
Yeah, it was like, yeah, it was
a
thing. And
brilliant.
John Lewis's was, I was like, I actually remember talking to my manager and John Lewis and being like, hey, Karen, like, what if someone made these cool? Like, you know, because I'm sitting there and I'm like falling asleep at it. And she's like, complete the training, tick the box, there, you've done it. I was like, okay, fine. But yeah, if you want to stand out, you need to do something completely left field. So for example, a friend of mine a little while ago, he messaged me and said, oh, what do you think about goats? And I was like, goats? Like, what are you talking about, mate? And he was like, I think that there's a viral fanatic niche of people on the internet that love goats. Wow. And I was like, I looked at that one. Yeah, oh no, you gotta be a bit careful. But then I looked into it and I was like, okay, well, some people like goats. So he said, how about we make a page? So we made a page, it was years ago now. We called it You Goat to Be Kidding, right?
Right.
And we bought really high quality plush goats from the same company that stocks vending machines in theme parks. Oh, right. And they called and they were like, how many thousand do you want? And we were like, no, just 30 because, you know, and they said, okay, fine. So we got like 100 of them. And our whole thing was, we're going to do an ad, but the product is going to be so high quality. So we got really nice cardboard boxes, lots of high quality green felt for the grass, put it in, put the little goat in the middle, we put air boxes in the box because it was like the goat can breathe. And you know, we went to the post office and the post office assistant would be like, why are there holes in the box? And I was like, oh, don't worry, it's just a goat in there. And then I always found it funny. They never found it funny.
No.
Yeah, they didn't find it funny at all. But then once we started sending these out, we handwrote the notes and said, hey, you can send it to your boyfriend or girlfriend. And we targeted people in long distance relationships on Facebook. And nice. And they sent them and it was working. And, you know, we said, send a picture of your goat at its forever home, right? That formed our marketing. So we jumped out of that vicious social media cyclone of who's going to get the next impression, who's going to get the next click. And people came to us because they were like, well, this is so weird. It's funny. And below, when people used to comment, we always used to follow it. And this was for free. This only took a few minutes. Like, for example, if Bethany tagged Derek and said, hey, Derek, isn't this cute? We'd comment below and say, hey, Derek, we put Bethany's name as a discount on checkout, so you can surprise her if you want. Derek's backed into a corner now because he has to buy her a goat. And so he'd go to the website, put her name in on checkout, 25% off. And we did that for every single person that commented. That wouldn't be found in like a, this is how you go viral type video you find on YouTube. That was just me and my friend just kicking an idea about and saying, well, what if you did it this way? So, you know, that weird idea that you might have in your head, just do it, because the barrier to entry is so low and the cost of failure is so low, but the potential success has never been higher. So you might as well just do it. So yeah, you're right that the value's gone these days, it's eroded, but there are ways to pull that back. And when you pull it back, you'll make a huge difference and you'll stand out even more in terms of the competition.
That's genius. That's brilliant.
So teas makers, puzzles, goats. I wasn't expecting this from today's conversation. I love it.
Very high tech.
Right. So we've got two. I can't remember which one was first. We'll go for this one. No, I think it was this one actually. How important is a niche, do you think? I'm interested in a personal brand, but cannot nail down my niche. Any advice or tips?
I'm happy to jump in on this one. Right. So I get this a lot actually, and it's not, sometimes it's not what you think it is. So it helps if you've got one or two early customers, because you need to interview them and ask them why it is they use your service or product. If you don't have any early customers, then get a couple of friends who understand you and the business and do a whiteboard session around what problem are we solving and who are we solving it for? Who has that problem the most? Like when Hamza talked about his training at Curry's, and I love the fact that she was called Karen, I think he nailed it on the head, that they just wanted a tick in a box and they didn't care about changing behavior, because he probably learned nothing from those videos and just carried on about his day, just tick the box. And that's all the manager was bothered about, just ticking the box. The real problem is when they get hacked because somebody clicked on a link and now the company's breached and they've lost loads of customer data and credit cards all over the internet. That is the problem you're really solving. But we spotted that there was a technology solution out there, but there wasn't a person solution out there to the crappy training. And the reason it was crappy training is that we are asking cybersecurity nerds to do communications, and that's like asking a fish to climb a tree. And so the problem you've got is that this pervaded everywhere. We spotted that problem. Once you start to dig in with your little workshop and your whiteboard session with your mates, dig into why is that problem happening, and is that the problem you want to solve? And you might find, if you're lucky, you'll discover a pattern that it seems to be happening in the industry or the individuals that you're solving a problem for, and then use that to hone your niche. So just start asking lots of questions. It really helps me personally to have another couple of people in the room to bounce off, because you can argue the toss about a certain point. You're not in an echo chamber of your own head, and that's really valuable. And that is worth doing it formally. Invite people over. I mean, you can't really at the moment, but when you can, or get them on Zoom. If when we do open up, we'll be able to put a bit of food on or whatever. That's what I did. I bought donuts and cakes and nice coffee back in the day, and that's, we used to have brainstorms and make sure that these people are, if they're your mates, but also that they are their opinion will be useful. Obviously, I mean, you can ask your mum, and sometimes your mum will have great wisdom, but it's usually to do with finding a girlfriend or whatever. But to be there's a few smiles of recognition there. But the point is, there's a great quote from The West Wing in finding out what your niche is, and Jed Bartlett, the president, says, "I like to surround myself with intelligent people who disagree with me." And that's a really good tip. So you break out of this echo chamber about what I think I'm good at and what I think I can do. So especially creatives, they're obsessed with what it is they can do as an artist, and that's fine. You need to have some confidence, but unless you can turn the mirror outside and see who's out there, and stop it being so internal, that is the way to work out what your niche is. Get a little workshop going. Try to talk to somebody who understands the product or has even used it, and that would be great. Just why, really why. I'd need to know a bit more information to help focus that down. But the main thing is treat it like an investigative journalist would. Like, let's get to the bottom of the story. I hope that's helpful.
I certainly found it helpful. Thank you.
Ah, cool. Okay.
Anything for you, Hamza?
To be honest, Jim's kind of hit the nail on the head there. It is about asking other people what they think as well, because like as an example, on Facebook, I was stuck between the personal brand of entrepreneur, which was really easy to put content out about and stuff, and then author, because I wrote a fantasy book, and I was like, which one am I? Like, which one do I focus on? Because you can't be both. And then I was like wrestling with this thing for months. And then I was speaking to a friend, and he was like, he's not in digital marketing, but he was like, well, why not? And I was like, well, you can't do both because you're segmenting and you're diluting. And he was like, yeah, but why not? And I was like, well, because this and this and this. And he was like, well, you're always banging on about your book and writing, and you love creativity and stuff. So he was like, which one do you want to be known for, really? And I thought, well, like, if you look at the cycle of what's going to happen when you start posting this content, if you start posting about writing and books and creativity and publishing, you will attract a certain type of audience that will either like your writing or be interested in it in the future. If it's about business, then it can lead to more referrals. So what I did was Instagram ended up being more about business and personal development, because it did well there with the short form videos. I did like in 2019, like a video a week, like day 1 of the business, day 2 of the business. And like, they did really well in generating business. And then on Facebook, it ended up being, okay, yeah, this is like an author page, because it just did better. And it was just less anxiety inducing for me as well, because the comments are usually like, oh yeah, that was a cool story, rather than, you just get a lot of questions on the comments. So protect your own time as well. Think, if you're going to be known for this, if you're going to be one of the most viral people in your niche for this, do you want that? Because that's what's on the table. So if you are willing to to take that responsibility, then do it. And I think a lot of people know what their niche is, but they're trying to be something they think they should be, the proper way, like the official way. I'd run away from that at 100 miles an hour. If you know what your niche is and there's something you enjoy talking about and your friends know that as well, and you've kind of confirmed it with them, friends that will disagree with you, then go for it. And the great thing about niche is, like, it's niche, right? You can change it if you get it wrong, so it's fine.
Great, thanks for sharing that.
Good one.
So next up, this one with 4 votes. How should we take advantage of video if our budgets are low? This could be one for Jim. What should the message be focused on?
Well, that's 2 questions. One, if budgets are low, Hamza mentioned earlier that there are some brilliant apps out there. I'm astonished what you can do on a phone now with some of the apps. I'm absolutely astonished. There are Hollywood level special effects available on apps on your phones now, right? If that's not an encouragement to be too flashy, but creating them yourself has never been easier. So just take a look around, do your research to videos that you like the look of, that you think are professional, and try to emulate the style of those. Then the content is different, like the message. Again, focus on the problem to be solved. Don't waste valuable video airtime in describing how you use the product, or maybe, you know, how it's made, unless that is one of your unique selling proposition points. I would say if the video, think of communication like a pyramid, and the pointy bit at the top is first contact with a customer. It's the smallest bit. It should take a short amount of time and create a bit like a movie trailer. Isn't the movie, you know, it asks more questions than it answers. A really good trailer makes you go, oh my God, what happens next? Oh, who's that? Oh, he's in it, you know, and it's all, you know, they're all unanswered, sort of like, oh my God, what happens now? You know, that it's the what happens next type of bit of the brain that you want to tap into. And so don't give too much information, because video is very bad at conveying a ton of, you know, linear information. Video is really great at getting you into stories. So I would say really focus on storytelling to do with solving the problem that your problem solves, especially if your product itself is either intangible, like a service, or it's boring to look at, like a, you know, 17-inch rack mount server. You know, I think it's really important that you focus on the story around the problem, because that makes people identify with it. And if you can do it in an entertaining way and be engaging, communication skills are so important. And if you feel you're not great at that, we've all got that one mate who stands at the bar telling jokes and is great. It just feels comfortable talking to groups of people. Just drag that person in for a bit. You know, the crazy girl who's always chatty and always talking, just, you know, ask a friend if you feel you don't have those communication skills, but you're still in charge of the message. So
thanks, Jim.
Hope that helped.
Hamza, anything to add on that, or your take, or perhaps you've done something around this?
Yeah, we've video, to be honest, is as Jim has mentioned, a super powerful medium. Like, it is, everyone was banging on about it about 5 years ago, and there's Facebook's going to be mostly video, and all, you know, everyone's getting really excited about it. And it was weird, because it's like, of course it is, like, life is video, you know, that's like the most natural thing for us. It's just one really long video with breaks for sleeping. So of course on our screens we would prefer videos of high quality, of good communication style. If you don't have a budget for this, then again, find out where your customers are and work backwards. So if your customers are on Facebook, but you don't even have a budget for Facebook ads, then you need to start looking at the closed groups. You need to start looking at where are the high quality closed groups. For example, we were looking to launch products in development where we help people 65 and over avoid scams, right? So we were like, it really annoyed me. Like, I read this thing and it was like, oh yeah, you know, this call center took 65 grand off someone because she thought it was Microsoft or something. And I was like, that's sickening. So we were like, okay, it'll be easy. We're just going to build this group, this community. We're going to help people, train them, easy. And then rather than jump into video advertising, there are so many groups out there already, contacting them saying, hey, you've got, like, it's like the Silver Surfer type groups, and that's a website, and they've got a community on Facebook as well. And we can say, you know, ask them, would you be willing for us to put something in your group or your page? Because this is something we think that your guys would really like. if they are commercial, you can say, okay, fine, anyone who signs up to a subscription with us, then you can get a kickback, that's fine. But the video itself has to be really good, because you've only got one shot with these guys. So yeah, I'd say just work backwards and don't be shackled by the channels. Facebook isn't marketing, Google isn't marketing. Where someone's attention and focus and emotion is where you need to work backwards from, like a maze. That could be anywhere. That could be direct mail. It could be like back in the day when I was just yelling out a brand name for no reason. Like, that worked too. So don't think that Facebook and Google are the gatekeepers. Yeah, they own nearly all of digital traffic, but they are not the gatekeepers to people's building a community.
Great. I know we've already talked about guerrilla techniques, and I was particularly impressed with the Dollar Shave Club. I'm sure some people have heard about. I've heard about the iPad in a blender, the blender company. They tend
blend.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes, it will.
Yeah, and they're really powerful. I mean, overnight YouTube hits went through the roof. So although we've touched on it, is there anything else on guerrilla techniques? Because so a lot of the audience participants today might be startups, have big budgets. So just
going as just to throw another guerrilla technique in, I mentioned briefly that I went to these big exhibitions where all our customers went, and for the first year or two we didn't pay. We just bought a ticket for 20 quid and went down, and it is slightly dodgy in as much as if the organizers catch you flyering, it's not like the Edinburgh Festival, they'll throw you out. But actually starting conversations in the coffee areas near where the food is, if you have to put up with a cheese and ham toasty for 9 quid, but other than that, it's a good way to hang around with a coffee. Make sure you take a mate with you so you can cover and regroup and stay motivated. These things are soul-sucking events, but all your customers are there, and you might even see some competition. You might even find somebody who's had the idea already, which is depressing, but you need to know. And so, but that is where all your customers are going, if it's B2B. So,
yeah. From my side, just really quickly on the guerrilla thing, I totally agree with Jim in that, there's a gray area you need to operate in sometimes. Obviously nothing illegal, but there are things you can do that can grow your business very quickly, and it's just not the proper thing. So for example, when we went to an expo event for Drench, and it was where Justy and all these guys were, Deliveroo, huge in London, I think it was. This is like 2 years ago now. And we went in, and it was me and two friends I pulled along, and we had this tiny little rubbish stand and big teddy bears and games because we wanted it to be fun. And I said to the guys, like, what are we going to tell people when we're a startup? Because we don't have any big names. So we're walking in to the actual arena, and there's this tiny little subway, like literally outside. It's like a little in the wall subway. So we go over to the guy, and I'm like, listen, we're a startup called Drench. We ordered first to be like, we're not just bothering you. We ordered subways and said, here's, and we were like, listen, there's all these people in there. How would you like to be guaranteed that a bunch of them come out and order a subway? And he was like, oh, that would be great. Like, can you do it? I was like, listen, for 2 days, just don't tell anyone. We're going to put you on our app, Drench, for free. And he was like, got to talk to head office about this. And I was like, the great thing is head office won't know. And if they do, just say that we did it without asking you and we'll cancel it. And he goes, but what about the offer? And I was like, listen, don't even come up with something. The board that you've got up there, we're going to put that in the app. So all we're doing is really just promoting you for free. And he was like, yeah, that's fine. Cool. So we went in. The first guy that came up to us said, yeah, who do you have on board? And I was like, we've got Subway on board, actually. Like, yeah, we're working with Subway. And he's like, really? and then 3 minutes later, the head of marketing for it was like not the director, the one below him in Just Eat, comes running over, and he's like looking at our stand, and I'm like, you're hovering, are you all right? And he's like, yeah, I'm just from Just Eat. I'm just checking out what kind of platform are you running? What are you doing? And I was like, oh, this and this. And then from there, Wingstop came, and then from there, Domino's. Nice. Like, I had a chat with them.
Brilliant.
Really good. It was great. And then at the end of it, I went to the guy at Subway, and I was like, thank you so much. You're a legend. I've deleted the offer from the app. And thank you, because you made a difference. Like, that was not the proper way to do things. Just like when, right back in the day, when I wanted to launch my CV business properly, I didn't have any money. So again, like, I've told the story like a million times. It's embarrassing every single time, but I've jumped on a train and pretended to be on the phone to someone that I got a job. And I was like, I used this great CV company. It was so good, because on trains, people are always eavesdropping. So people were like leaning around and being like, oh, okay, what's the, and I mentioned the brand name a few times, and I made sure it sounded authentic, to be like, mate, I'm out of the rat race. I've got a new job. And if this company hadn't come, I don't know who they are. Their names, Create My CV. I don't know. Like, and like these guys, like, and I went home, and then there's like, I don't know, half a dozen inquiries.
Oh, brilliant.
And people saying, hey, like, and then this was a fluke, but I realized afterwards I'd caught them at the worst part of their day. Like, the commute home at 7 p.m. and it's wet. You hate your job.
Oh,
so
God, yeah.
it was
brilliant.
Yeah, it was, and it was fluky as well. It was quite a fluke, but it worked. And like, even now, like, I mean, the company's, you know, shut down and everything, but if anyone asks me like, oh, I don't have a budget for marketing, I'm like, you have a mouth, you know. That's all the marketing. Start somewhere and grow, and don't think that you have to be like the big names. Like, I see Gary V in the next question. I like him, but you don't have to be him. He's a niche result, you know. You don't have to go down that route. There's a million other ways.
Brilliant.
Love it.
That's proper guerrilla advertising. I love it.
I'm really I'm mindful of the time, and we've got quite a few questions. I wonder if we could just try and rattle through these super quick, if that's possible.
Cool. Jim, do you want to go for this one?
Yeah, I found this an interesting one, because this is about allocation of time. It can take up your whole day. Yes, I see how it can. I think that's about being organized and time management, to be honest. Make appointments with yourself to do specific tasks. And I've heard somewhere that an hour a day is enough. Focused hour a day on your social media channels should be enough, or at least an hour either end of the day. And I think you should, you know, be more specific with your tasks. I have a daughter who spends all day on social media. She's not building her business. She's just looking at stuff. So just be careful that you don't get caught out like that. I think it's important to, sorry, I've just lost the, I managed to click on something and get rid of the screen share. Hold on a sec. I just want to know what the question actually says properly. Right, okay. So I think it's, what I would need to know how you're using your time, whoever asked that question. And the networking thing is why events, and even online events, are good, because if you go to a group, thanks for that. If you go to a group and connect with that group on LinkedIn, for example, or as Hamza says on Facebook, that's efficient. Networking with one person is really high maintenance. You know, you just go to an event and talk to a person for 20 minutes. That's really, if you've got a retail product, that's not worth it. It was worth it for us because our starting price was six grand. So we'd have a conversation for 20 minutes about that, but it's not worth it if you're, you know, talking to individuals. But where can you talk to many people? And one of those areas is on groups on LinkedIn, posting content on there, and posting content on Facebook if it's more appropriate, or even Instagram. And you know, I call it remote intimacy. If you're good with your communications and clever and a little bit funny, or you have a personality, that is like you're there, because you're not a robot. You're not just spouting out features and benefits. So be efficient with your story and use the networking as groups. Like, try to connect with groups and don't just spam groups. Like, it helps if you have a plan to contribute. If you've been dropping in little comments for every day for a week, I think then you're at liberty to say, I came across this really great product, or I'm working on this really great product. And if you get told off, you get told off, but I think you have to earn it. And the story I always tell people about social media is when somebody comes into a group and then suddenly starts trying to sell me something, that's a bit like back in the day when we could all go to pubs and you'd be stood there with maybe some friends and maybe, or a partner. And then some guy walks in with a bucket full of roses and just comes up and butts into your conversation. You got a rose for the lady? Anyone? Anyone? It's the least romantic thing ever, but you feel under social pressure to buy a one. You hate that guy. It's like, go away. That's the equivalent of busting into somebody's group and trying to flog them something. Earn it. If he'd been coming to the pub for the past 6 weeks and you sort of knew his face, and he'd said, and one night he says, I've got a load of roses in the van, actually. They're gonna probably die. I'm just gonna flog them off cheap. Does anyone want one? And he'd have a word with you at the bar quietly. You'd probably go, oh, mate, brilliant. Yeah, great idea. Let's do that. Do you see the difference? You have to earn your way into a social networking group. You should be a contributor to some extent to earn that. And it's got to be worth it for you to do that. Does that make sense to anybody? I think just earning the right to be there is really important, and to be a genuine contributor. You can't just spam online groups because they hate it. Simple as that.
So that makes sense to me.
We don't all want a rose. Yeah.
Right. Let's see if we can get the. Oh, sorry, Hamza. Yeah. Anything on that one as well?
No, pretty much what Jim said, to be honest, resonates really well. With Gary V, I go through phases of muting him entirely, like maybe 3 months, and I did this thing really quickly where I think what he's done is pretty cool, and I like his message of empathy and stuff, and it evidently works. But I went through this thing of, rather than following his content, obviously he's got this massive team around him, and he doesn't check his DMs like personally, like unless it's someone important. So I just started DMing him progress on Instagram to be like, hey, like, this is what we're doing. And it was all the way from when I was in a job. And there's literally like a string now to Gary Vee being like, just quit my job. I'm so scared. Oh, just got the first client. Oh, just hit that this much per month. And now I'm fine. And oh, we've launched a product. Oh, we're getting a license to get this thing acquired. That's more valuable than his content to me. I know he's never going to read it, and that's okay. But that has become more valuable. So he's great. But just don't get caught in the vortex, because your time's too precious.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great. Okay. Let's see if we can squeeze in these next two. They've been voted. Just see if I can paraphrase the first one. If you can read that. So it's a bit of advice.
It's about having a post with a clickable ad underneath it automatically.
That's it. Yeah.
Native advertising small. Attaching an ad to a post might suffer from the same thing that I've just talked about. Actually, I wouldn't want people to get confused with, is this a genuine piece of content that might help me, or is it an advert? And deep down we all know it's all an advert, but the empathy and the sincerity of a post that might genuinely help you is your ticket to the, is your price of admission to that conversation. I feel this is asking for a tagline, which I think is a little bit cheeky on this group, but I don't think we're going to workshop a tagline at the moment. My advice to you about choosing a tagline is, don't be too clever, and don't use any words that have more than one pronunciation. I see it all the time. A friend of mine had a product called, I'll spell it for you, and you tell me how to say it. Talen.
Talon.
Maybe. Talon.
Yeah.
It's over. I'm sorry. I'm out. It's broke.
Yeah.
I'm walking away. It's too late.
No.
How is people supposed to talk about you if they can't even say it, or they're nervous about getting it wrong? You've created an anxiety in that. So just use really simple words that have one pronunciation. That is a really basic bit of advice, but I see it broken all the time. So
yeah. And just very quickly on this one, try not to use a negative connotation in your tagline. Don't say don't.
Yeah.
What are they doing? So like post and profit, okay, fair enough, but don't ever tell the customer not to do something unless it's something that's so dangerous that they know they shouldn't be doing it anyway. This is something that no one knows they shouldn't be doing. So don't tell them not to do it, if that makes sense.
Feel berated to start with.
Yeah. Don't use the negative words. Don't say stop. Don't, just like, get milk. Like, so simple. And it's
rather than don't run out of milk.
Yeah. And that's one of the most successful campaigns of all time now. So that's all from me on that one.
Yeah, good one.
Right. Okay. And then if we could squeeze in this one. I think this one was first, actually. The other one just got voted. But so I'm at a place where I'm happy with my product and website, but I don't know how to drive potential customers, users. Can you recommend any YouTube videos or marketing SEO, or give any advice? I mean, I don't know if we've got enough time. Maybe top 3 tips, perhaps, if we've got time?
Yeah, you know what? Check out SEMrush. Their blog's great. Neil Patel's brilliant. His content's really long, so like get a cup of tea because it's like 20,000 word blog posts sometimes.
The first one was Sam Rush, was it? Hamza?
SEMrush, yeah, SEMrush. SEMrush's content is probably the best SEO help content that I've ever come across. And I'm not even like, I'm not an affiliate, I'm not an investor. Like whenever they post a blog post, I'm like, I've got to read that. It's really, really good.
How are you spelling that? Is it SEM or
SEMrush? Yeah.
RUSH? Got it.
Yes, yeah. And in terms of YouTube, I mean, Neil Patel does some pretty cool videos on YouTube. What I would do is, if you search anything on YouTube, always go to the channel first, see how long it's been around, and make sure that it hasn't got like these clickbaity type videos on its feed. So go to like most viewed videos and stuff. If it's like how to get 1,000 people on your website in a day, yeah, you kind of want something with a bit more value and substance.
Clickbaity, yeah.
It's very clickbaity. So yeah, go more for brands that have built their names as thought leaders in the industry, and they're two that come to mind straight away.
Great. Jim, anything?
Yeah, I mean, SEO is like a dark art to me, and I've not had a satisfactory explanation from anybody about how it works. I appreciate it's an ongoing cost as well, so it's tricky. Self-educating on that is really, obviously, it's great advice from Hamza, and it's worth finding out where they live. Do your research on your customers. Where do they coalesce? It's much better to try and add some value to a group online first, be a contributor. You're learning all the time anyway, it's not time wasted. And then you can think about where an ad would be appropriate, or where a post with practical advice to a problem they're talking about in the group. It depends. Again, it's hard to know how to advise whether, you're talking to 10 customers that might spend a lot of money, or 100,000 customers that are going to spend 0.01 pence each. So it's hard to know. It's different routes for different things. But again, just find out where they live rather than spamming the world. And generate useful content. A useful quick story here is about how PC World have that sort of nerd herd type corner where you can take your laptop to be fixed. They started, actually no, it was Best Buy that did it first in America. They started posting videos on how to change the battery out of your laptop if you needed to replace the battery or a hard drive. Fairly straightforward tasks that if you're a little bit technical, you could probably do. And somebody asked me, like, isn't that shooting themselves in the foot when the people would bring their laptops to have that done? And I said, those jobs are low value and time consuming. They're actually not the sort of job that PC World wants. What PC World really wants to do is sell you a new laptop. And so what they're doing is helping so many people that when they either A, get into trouble with trying to do it themselves, or B, have a much more serious problem with their laptop, who are they going to go to? Well, they're going to go to the people that helped them out in the first place, that offered them the free advice, that gave something to the community. And that's so important. It's just try to do something useful for free for your community. People try to bypass that bit. There's no substitute. I always say it can take 18 months to build a following easily, and you're just giving the whole time. You're giving. It's difficult. And hopefully you can sustain yourself while you're going through building up that community. But if you give genuine, useful advice regularly and they know where to get it, and you remove the friction so they can find it easily, that is a pathway towards driving customers to your site. Because when they want something related to that, they'll go, oh, that guy helped me with my PC. I wonder if they can recommend a new one because this one's dead, or whatever, so that kind of thing.
Thank you very much. Yeah, we're already 5 minutes over. I want to be respectful of your time, Jim and Hamza.
That's right.
I found that really, I know nothing about marketing, and I feel like I've learned a lot today, especially on the guerrilla marketing techniques as well. Some great suggestions there.